So, like, why go to sleep when you can be mad about movies at, like, 3:30 in the morning? So, I was thinking about the stupid Netflix Death Note movie again, and I have a lot of feelings about it, honestly, as an adaptation of the anime, but also as a movie itself. So, like, we all know why we're mad about it. There are very obvious reasons, like it taking place in America, all the whitewashing, you know, all of the stupid decisions that they made, like, just the kid who played Light in general is just, he looks terrible. Like, my main problem with him is he doesn't look like he could ever be intimidating. He just looks like a crybaby. Like, there's nothing that he would ever be scary for. So, he just looks like that little emo kid that sits in the corner trying to be edgy, and he's not at all, but he tries to be. So, like, okay, even if you don't look at this movie as an adaptation, because if you do, it's going to make you, like, want to kill somebody. If you look at it just from a movie standpoint, it's still not good. Because Ryuk is basically just a puppet master to Light. He gives him the book, he tells him what to do with it, he kind of goads him on, and when he first enters into the picture, he makes the whole room shake. He's throwing around chairs and tables, and it's just like, he's very intimidating. So it's like, no one's going to say no to him because he's like this big monster thing, so you're just going to do what he tells you to do anyway. So that takes all responsibility right out of Light's hand. Like, it's not him making these decisions, it's him being forced into decisions that he didn't want to make. So, right there, that's not an interesting character dynamic, because it's just like, we've seen that 100 times. You get forced into doing something you don't want to do, and there's no accountability on the main character because it's not his decision. It was somebody else's. Somebody else made him do it. Which is what made the original show so good, is that Light filled up 5 pages before Ryuk even showed up, because it was all his idea, it was all his plan, it was his own feelings, which makes him an interesting character. It doesn't make him right, but it makes him interesting. It makes him complex and diverse. What do we get from Light Turner? Basically everything we get from any other regular American movie that we get. He's a loner. He's shown it to be smart because he's doing other people's homework, but he's a troublemaker and the teachers don't like him, and, you know, he sits alone, and then he goes to detention, and it's like, that's not interesting. That's boring. And then you got Mia, who is, like, honestly, as much as I hate Light, Mia's worse. And that's saying something, because I think that Light Turner is a bitch baby. So, my biggest problem with Mia is, even if you don't look at her as an adaptation from Misa Misa, because don't do it, she's not an interesting character. Mia is a cheerleader, but she's like this edgy cheerleader, and she's smoking in the middle of practice, and she's crossing her arms and looking all goth and sad and mad about everything. Why are you a cheerleader if you hate it? Like, nobody's forcing you to be a cheerleader. It's not one of those things. It's never addressed. It's never like, oh, my mom expects me to be a cheerleader or whatever. It's just, she just is one. Like, why are you a cheerleader if you don't like it? Like, if you want to make fun of all of these girls for doing it, why are you doing it? Like, that is never explained, and it's really an irritating character trait, because you don't know why she's doing that or why she's acting that way. And then it's like, it's that typical high school bullshit where one person's in love with the other, and then they'll do anything to get their attention. But instead of it being Mia who's trying to get Light's attention, which it should be, it's that classic story that we've seen 100 times, where the loser guy is in love with the popular girl, and he doesn't think he has any chance with her, and then he does whatever it is that he does as the main character, and then he gets the attention of the main girl. The problem is that Mia is a psycho. You know, he gets the book, and he doesn't really want to do anything with it. He has to be forced by Ryuk into putting any names in the book. And then here comes, he shows it to Mia right away because he wants to seem interesting and edgy. And she's like, oh, we should write stuff in the book. And she's basically controlling him at that point. Like, he is only writing in the book so that, like, she will have sex with him. And then they get this relationship, and then they're in love with each other. And then you have all these gratuitous, like, making out and sex scenes, and it's just disgusting. We've seen it all 100 times before. Every teenage movie is always exactly the same. Boy wants girl, boy gets girl, they have disgusting sex, and that's supposed to signify some kind of deep emotional relationship, which does not... It's not a real thing. Like, So, like, just looking at the movie on its own, not even comparing it to the original, because if I compare it to the original, I will be super mad, and that is, like, a whole rant for another day. But looking at it as just a movie standpoint, that already is not interesting, because you got that high school dynamic that you've seen 100 times over, so you're already bored. So you throw in this Death Note, and Light is not smart when he's using it. Like, he takes it with him out in public. He takes it with him to school. It's like, he shows it to Mia right away, and then she starts using it like it's her own personal book, and the gratuitous swearing in this movie is just way too much. It's like, okay, I know that people curse. I curse a lot too, and again, not comparing it to the original because that makes me furious, but just, why are they swearing so much? Like, you don't swear just for the sake of swearing. It doesn't make you interesting, and it doesn't make you edgy. Stop it. Use your words. Use your big people words. You don't have to say motherfucking every single sentence. Like, it's unnecessary, and it's lazy writing, honestly. And then, like, there's all of these other people. Like, L is not a good character. He's not interesting. He's stupid. Like, you think that Kira is, you know, he can kill people by looking at them, and you have all these theories or whatever, and yet you take yourself and you put yourself in public. And literally every time he's on the screen, he looks like he wants to cry. And he's so, like, unorganized, and he never really shows how smart he is. He confronts Light, and Light doesn't even deny that he is this murderer, which he should if he's trying to throw him off his case, but he doesn't. And it's like, it's not an interesting movie. Like, there's no psychological intrigue. It's just, you're watching this movie, and you're like, okay, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And everything is so cliche. It's like, okay, he's going to get the girl. Okay, now he has the girl. Okay, now the relationship is going to get deeper. Okay? And then it's like, oh, we have to have the obligatory chase scene, and then we have to have this. And it's like, but Light does so many stupid things that, like, don't make sense in a movie context. Like, you have this book, and you're trying to hide it from people, but, like, you're not doing it very well at all. Like, you bring, like I said, you bring the book in public, and then you just write in it all the time, and they never really talk about how Elle catches onto their trail, because in the movie, Light and Mia, like, it's like they're getting murderers and people from all over the country. It's not localized at first, which is where Elle picked up the trail in the anime, which would make sense. In the movie, he never talks about how he pinpointed that he was in that specific area, or why he came to be in that area. Like, it's never explained. It is honestly never explained. And then it's like, he's supposed to be the world's greatest detective, and yet you never see any kind of skills of why he's the world's greatest detective. You don't really ever see him being smart. You get, like, a clever line out of this movie every so often, like when Watari is like, they're like, oh, who are you? And he's like, I am Watari, and he hands them a card, and it literally just says Watari. That got a chuckle out of me. And then the line where Elle is like, no, I don't carry guns, they're distracting. Like, the way that he said it was kind of funny, but, like, literally everything else is so cringy. Light's hair is cringy. The way that Mia's face just always looks so psychotic, that's super cringy, and I don't like that aspect of her. It's like, you've seen it before, you've seen it a million times. Like, it's boring. Light is a bitch baby. He literally does what Ryuk tells him to do, and he does what Mia tells him to do, and then it's like, when he tries to put on his big boy pants and he starts yelling, it just really seems out of character. And then it's like, at the end, when it was like, oh, I was the mastermind after all this time, look, I did this really interesting, intricate thing, and it's like, but where was any of that in the beginning of the movie or in the middle to prove that you were smart enough to think of that? Because at the end, it just seems rushed and not real, because you've been making so many stupid mistakes all along that it doesn't seem real that you could actually come up with something that complex. The whole strained relationship with his father thing is super cliche. Like, the whole, like, just, literally everything about that movie is so terrible. And, like, again, when you compare it to the anime, it becomes 100 times worse. But looking at it as just a movie, it's terrible. Like, that whole twist ending where it was Mia all along, and she just really wanted that Death Note. Like, where did that come from? I mean, you see her being psychotic throughout the entire movie, but what's her motivation for that? Why does she want that Death Note so bad? Why did she pretend to be in love with Light to get it? And then, was Light really in love with her? Because the ending would seem to think that he's not, but he keeps telling her he loves her all the time, and when she falls off of the Ferris wheel, he's like crying and screaming, and nobody's there to watch him, so why would he do that if he didn't actually love her? And also, that actor is just really bad. Like, I'm sure he's good in other things, but like, his little doe-eyed, wide-eyed thing, and the fact that he screams, really weird in everything. Like when Ryuk shows up and he screams like a little bitch and he's pounding on the door, let me out, let me out. He's a bitch baby. He's not an interesting character to follow, especially as a main character. And then you got Mia, who is just plain psychotic. She doesn't have any other character trait except that she is psychotic and manipulative. And then you have Ryuk, who is the puppet master of all of it. And he's like, oh, give me my book back. He's like a whiny little baby. And then it's like, and then you got Elle, who's like, oh, I'm the world's greatest detective, and I know that you're Kira, even though I've literally shown you, like, no proof that why I know that you're Kira, I just know that you're Kira. And then it's like you're fighting Kira for being a serial killer, but then at the end, after your best friend is murdered by Kira, you're willing to take the page that you found, and it's like you're going to write in that book. So aren't you basically just becoming that person that you said that you were sworn to catch? Like, your motivation makes no sense. You bounced from it to being, oh, this is completely evil, I have to stop it, to, I'm going to use this book because it's convenient for me to do so because I hate this guy and he killed my friend. It's like, how are you any better than who you're trying to catch at that point? It's just, it's complete and utter nonsense. Like, Ryuk's character design is really cool. I like the actor that they got for him. His voice is perfect. And, you know, it gets a couple of chuckles, but as a movie in general, not even as an adaptation, but just as a movie in general, the plot is not interesting. It jumps all over the place. None of the characters are likable, like, at all, because they took Ryuk's most enchanting character and the fact that he doesn't care and the fact that he laughs at everything, and they just made him into this really kind of whiny, oh, I want my book back kind of weirdo. And, like, Elle is never shown as being smart, and he's never shown as being meticulous in any way. Light is just a fucking dumbass who just wants to oppress some girl so he can get some sex. Mia doesn't really have a character trait until she learns what the Death Note is, and then all of a sudden she wants to be a psychotic murderer. And it's like, there are no other characters. There's like Watari, but you don't really know anything about him. And there's his father, who is just kind of like a drunk, and he's not really that interesting. And it's like, what am I supposed to like about this movie? Even not as an adaptation, even as just its own thing, what am I supposed to like about this movie? The characters are not interesting. The plot has been told 100 million times before. The soundtrack is crap. It doesn't fit any of the scenes that it's ever in. The effects are not really that great. There's all this gratuitous swearing. There's all of this gratuitous murder, which doesn't even really seem to have a point except to just throw gore in for no reason. It doesn't really fit in with the tone of the story. None of it makes any sense, and it just makes me mad because there's so much that could have been done with a premise like this, and if you didn't do it as an adaptation and you just did it as your own thing, you could have changed so many things. Like, if you wanted your character to be a little bitch baby, that's fine. Write him as a little bitch baby, but don't at the last second try to be like, oh no, he was brilliant and he was behind this the whole time, because nowhere, even when he's by himself and he doesn't have to play up for anybody, you never see him like do a smirk or kind of like show that he's being intelligent in any way. He always just looks like a little bitch. Always. Like, so get your movie together and don't try to do this again, because it's nonsense. Your movie sucks. Just in general, it sucks. And as an adaptation, it sucks even worse. Like, it is one of the worst adaptations. It's right up there with Dragon Ball Evolution and Avatar The Last Airbender and all of the other fucking Americanized movies that we have stolen from Japanese or Korean or Chinese stories that didn't need to have adaptations because they were already good the way that they were. They didn't need to be redone. You don't need to take a show or movie that already has a humongous following and ruin it. If you wanted to make a movie about the Death Note premise, make it a sequel or a prequel or something. I don't even care. Take new characters, take that idea and make new characters around it. That's all. We would not be so harsh on your movie had you done that. But the fact that you tried to make it an adaptation makes it 100 times worse. Your movie sucks and your adaptation needs to be burned in a fire because of how bad it is. Learn how to make movies and don't do this again.